This video diary number 3. Today is one more week to go before I leave with the 16 students to Shanghai. We did the preparation or the prep workshop yesterday. Went from 10 o'clock in the morning till dead on 4 p.m. It was a really good workshop, but really tiring. I was completely exhausted. This time in the workshop, I tried something new. Basically what I did was I really concentrated on teamwork dynamics and getting the cohort to work as a whole. The first thing I did was I tested them. I knew that students would some students would rock in late. So I had a reading activity where students needed to come in, look at the screen and work out the steps to get organised while we waited for the latecomers to come, because I didn't want students who were arriving on time just to be sitting around waiting. I wanted them to be actually actively doing something while we waited for the latecomers. So a couple of things I needed to do was sign in, find their group tables. So each table had either group 1, 2 or 3 or 4. And there was a list on each table of who was with whom. So they were able to work quietly while they waited for the latecomers and fill in the Kolb's learning styles survey. And that takes about 10 minutes just to work out what kind of learner they prefer to be considered or prefer to sway towards. Then once they'd done that, I had on the whiteboard a big ship where a cruiser, where I said they had to list a professional occupation that would be going on the cruise ship. And then once they did that, we needed to wait for everyone to arrive, and then we could start the group activity. So that was good. So finally, the latecomers came, and I used that as an example to say, when we go to China and we're visiting industry sites, you cannot be late. You need to be punctual. It's actually a sign of bad manners. And just also gave an example of last year's study tour where students didn't bring an alarm clock, weren't used to getting up early in the morning and couldn't even make a 9 o'clock session for the first day. And I had to track them down, and then I don't want things like that happening. They must be punctual, they must be respectful, they need to use my title. And if they're going to talk to our host, they call them ma'am or sir. Explain how important business cards are in China, and that's worth getting them, and that you must hold them with 2 hands and accept them with 2 hands, and that they're precious if they do give you a business card. And if a person, when they're networking, suggests to connect with them through WeChat, that's a sign of great value and respect as well. So anyway, so once all the students had put in their professional occupations onto the whiteboard in the frame of the cruise ship, I then got them to work for 10 minutes. And I said that now that they got the list of professional occupations on the ship, they had to only select 5 that would survive, because there was only 1 lifeboat. The rest would surely die. So that was really interesting. They were really engaged, and there was lots of excitement going on. And basically, then I got each group to get up in front of everyone, and then that's when I spoke to performance skills and how important that will be when they do their group assessment, and that's part of the rubric, and that they need to practice. And the more they practice, the better they get at it. So when I say, who wants to present an idea or who wants to present in front of the class, that they should be putting their hands up and grabbing those opportunities, because that's the people, when they do grab those opportunities, that they're going to definitely improve their skills, etc. So that went really well. And it was just an exciting task, because they'd already done the Kolb's learning styles, sort of had a quick understanding of that everyone in the group learns differently. And then they had to have a group activity and work out how to negotiate. So then we unpacked that as a group, and then individually within the group, like does your learning style impact how you discuss and resolve how you selected your occupations that were to survive in the lifeboat, and why did you make those decisions? And it was just interesting that the groups, some of them picked musician, chef, nurse, captain, and an engineer, and they actually unpacked why they picked those professions over the others. So that was really good. And when they couldn't choose something, they had to discuss that, and so they were unpacking the skills needed to have good, effective teamwork. I then also got, before we completed the activity, I decided I wanted to add something really new that I just had a feeling it would work. I asked one person from each table to swap to another table and try and persuade that group to think about a different occupation going into the boat. Only one group changed their final decision, the other group stayed all the same. So that was really interesting, how you can then discuss and think about ideas when you're coming from a different group into another group. So that was a really good experience for them. It was a packed day, there was so much going on. We went through a lot of risk. My expectations of them as each of the 4 groups will work with me, but also as an individual and what I expect. So each group will take on a day, that's their responsibility throughout the program, where they will come up with some questions before we arrive at the site visit, so that they will ask the hosts and they've got to think about the questions that they're thinking. So we did an activity. We practiced with the program, so we used the first visit, which was WeWork. I got them to quickly look it up. What is WeWork? How long they've been in China? What are they doing, etc. And then I asked each group to come up with 5 specifically designed questions, and then to share those questions with the rest of the group. So, and then I said, well, what did you get out of that? Where could we improve moving forward? And so there was some really good advice, things like design your questions properly, make them clear, understand the context, don't overlap with other people's questions, prepare. So that was really good. We also had a careers and employability workshop that went really well. Lucy from the team did that. I really loved how she linked in work integrated learning and careers, and she was looking at skills and industry and just getting to think about why they would be doing their first assessment, which was about highlighting a learning goal as well as a performance objective. What is the difference? How can you link the two together? So that was really good, and they did a couple of little activities around that. We also had Global Sydney come in for the first time, speak to both groups together. We brought the US study tour together with the China study tour for a half an hour, and talking about risk, make sure you've got enough money when you arrive, what to pack, medications, telling the unit coordinators about any health issues before you go, insurance, what you're covered for, what you're not, going and seeing a doctor before you leave. So that was really good. And then after the workshop, I asked the students, was there anything that kind of you hadn't thought about that you now need to do? Or was it everything that you feel, I already know that, so I probably didn't need to be here for that workshop? And I said, because if that's the case, that's good, because I want to re-emphasize how important it is to prepare. So if you've gone through that workshop feeling that you kind of knew everything, that's actually a good thing. And so some of the things that came up were, I haven't told my bank that I'm going overseas, so we spoke a little bit about that. In terms of you've got to make sure you do that, because you won't be able to get money out, and that can be quite dangerous as well as just upsetting when you're in country. I told them about that there's no groups can swap, that's finalised, and why I have suggested that, because I've selected them specifically based on their criteria for applying for the program. One student asked me how I did that. I said, with the information I had, I'm making sure that you've got gender equality across the different groups, so we don't have, just all guys in one group, for example, or all girls in one group. I looked at discipline, I looked at their reflective applications, why they want to do the program, what they want to get out of it. I looked a little bit at the WAM, but not so much. So I really feel I've picked the groups really well. There's a lot of diverse disciplines, gender, and background and experience, so it's spread across the 4 groups. So I'm quite happy with that. I also let them know about the selections of accommodation, that I've already done that, and that the hotel will have a list, so when they arrive they will be sharing with those people that I've put up together. I said I selected that based on making sure they weren't sharing with someone that's already in their team group, and just did it quite systematically. If they want to change rooms, it is possible. There's a process. So the process is that whoever they want to move from, they have to have that conversation and agree to that, and whoever they want to move into, that the other 2 people who they want to swap with or whatnot is also in agreement, and then they come and have a conversation with me, and then I will approve that if all parties are on board. If all parties are not on board, then I won't approve it. So yeah, it was really good. I just really set the rules and the regulation. I think because I've been doing this for so many times now, and I kind of know where things will go wrong. I've really emphasised they've got to tell me where they're going after the program. They can't travel on alone. They can't just, you know, that it's a program for 2 weeks. We're all together. We're living, we're working, we're learning together. It's just 2 weeks. I mean, they can travel and do their personal travel before and after. So for the 2 weeks, I want them to be professional. I want them to imagine that I'm their boss, that they are an employee, and that means they have to be on time. And if they want to gossip about people, or, you know, say they don't want to work with this person for whatever reason, they don't want to sit next to them at lunch or breakfast or whatever, they've got to get over it, like you would in the workplace, and that I don't want to hear about it. So yeah, I was pretty strict, but in a fun kind of way as well. So I think they know that I'm definitely the boss, but that I'm also there to really help and support them. So we went through all the assessments. I told them time management is key, and it's always something students struggle with, that I'm always available to talk about stuff, but it needs to be in a transparent way and equitable. I can't be giving advice to one student and not another, etc. Said really just have a look at all the rubrics, because they've been designed so that I marked those rubrics, so I'm not going to go off them in any way or change anything, or there's no surprises, it's all there. So yeah, I felt, and I talked a lot about energy, and I said, you know, make sure that, you know, your energy is at a good level and all the way through the program, and that means you have to play a role, and you're not always going to feel great, happy and energized, and you have to fake it. So and then I'll be monitoring that and observing that and giving feedback. What else? We kind of went through the program, but I said we'll do orientation when we get to Shanghai, and Fanfan will obviously go through the program every day. But we'll prepare for the program 24 hours before and work out the group that's responsible for that day of the program, and that makes sure they're prepared for that site visit. They asked me about dress code, so I explained all about that and how hot it is there when we go, and so you're going to need to be able to diversify your wardrobe. That laundry facilities might be difficult. That public toilets, you need to take your own toilet paper. That if you're going to take medication through customs, make sure that you have a doctor's letter, as well as the bottle or package that the medication comes in, and then put that in a plastic bag. Otherwise it'd be very difficult to get through customs. What else? SIM cards. So probably not when they first arrive at the airport, I probably will not be able to get a SIM card, but definitely the next day, and Fanfan can help with that. Explain about student volunteers that Fanfan will provide. Can't think of anything else. It was a big day. Went through reflective practice, did an actual example that wasn't related to the assessment, but got the students to read an article, think about an incident, and then connect the two together, and then focus on the 5 R's for that. And then once they actually did it themselves, really, really lovely, in a lovely way. And I was able to highlight, oh, did you see what was going on there? That's what I'll be looking for. That's how you link your narrative to literature, which, as we know, a lot of students really struggle with when it comes to those types of assessments. So that was a good example to go through. Yeah, just mainly icebreakers, getting to know one another, them getting to know me, I getting to know them, setting the rules, the boundaries, the scope, limitations, getting to think about being agile, resilient, flexible, because things will happen, things will go wrong, and we'll have to improvise on the day. Yeah, and that was about it. So next time I will be heading on the plane and arriving. So when I do my next sessions in the video diaries, I want to be able to do one per day while I'm actually in program, so documenting each day. All right, and we'll talk to you then.